Good evening, everybody. My name is Robin Craig, and you're watching Robin Craig Live, broadcasting from my hometown, Houston, Texas. I tell you, we are still in a drought. We still have mandatory water rationing. However, we're in the high 80s, and it just feels like fall. So I'm excited about the temperatures. The other thing that's so great about this drought, I was able to go swimming last Sunday afternoon. I couldn't believe it because normally my pool is cold after at least the second week of September. So the swimming is still good. So I'm not minding the drought. And the other thing about postponing fall, I don't have to rake leaves for another minute. I know they're getting ready to really start dropping, but right now I'm enjoying the cooler temperatures and this wonderful sunshine. And I hope you're doing the same thing. We were just doing some talking in the chat room as we always do before the show. And some days are diamond and some days are stones. And it's part of the grieving process. And we don't always understand. Sometimes our body chemistry off. Sometimes if you're a woman, just being a female, you can have a hormonal issue. But I guarantee you, if you stop by and watch Robin Craig Live every Tuesday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, we're going to help you feel better. So I'm going to catch up with my guest here in moments. But first, it's time for the critter update. I'm happy to report once again that my yard is loaded with birds. They are so happy. They're hopping and flying all over the place. It's such a pleasure to watch them because with no rain, when I turn my sprinkler on, they think it's rain. And I took an outside shower the other day. Everybody knows how much I love that. Don't worry, I've got the 8-foot brick fence. There's no visibility, so don't be peeking over my fence. But I was in the outside shower and my eye caught some movement. And I looked down and I saw a little bitty tiny frog. I mean, he was just like about this long. And I was going to nudge him out of the way. I was afraid I would step on him, but he looked so happy, like, oh boy, at last we're getting rain. And I didn't have the heart to tell him it was just a shower. So I took a shower with the frog. Who knows? Maybe I should have kissed him. Might have turned into a prince, you think? I don't know. Well, last week, if you guys were watching the show, we talked about a wonderful book called Carol's Story, A Scottish Gem. It was written by Michelle Roger. And I said that the 20th person to email me would receive a copy of the book. And the winner is Brenda Cattrall in Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much for watching, Brenda. She said that she was not in the chat room, but she did watch the show. She enjoyed it very, very much. And someone in her family has breast cancer. So I'm delighted that she's getting this book. Some of the proceeds go to alternative cancer treatment. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So congratulations to Brenda. Thank you for watching Robin Craig Live. Now tonight, I'm going to be also giving away a book. Let me just go ahead and show it to you. I'm giving away the Path of the Warrior Walker. And if you look right over here, that little green dot there, that is the author, Stanley Bronstein, who has had an unbelievable weight loss. So I want to go ahead and get Stanley on the phone, and let's just start talking about his wonderful weight loss. Stanley, you're on Robin Craig Live. How are you?
Doing just fine tonight.
Good, good. Well, I am excited about your weight loss. Did I read correctly that your top weight was 370 pounds?
If you go back 20 something years ago, I was about 367.
Okay, okay, and you're 5'8", so that's a lot of weight to carry around.
I was a pretty big boy.
Okay, and what motivated you to start losing the weight?
It was time to get my life together. I got sick and tired. I wouldn't call it hitting bottom, but I decided I was no longer going to tolerate bad things in my life. And it all began with me. I took personal responsibility. It's nobody else's fault. It's mine. And if I'm going to make the change, it's up to me to do it. And I started doing it.
Was your family overweight, or were you the only one in your family that struggled with weight?
Most all of us have struggled with weight at one time or another, some worse than others. I mean, my father was very large his entire life. My mother was large, and she died at a very young age. So, yes, it's been a problem.
Okay, and I've struggled with my weight since I was 7. I just was able to control it to a point where I never got that big. But I understand how it feels when you even gain 20 or 25 pounds. You don't feel as energetic, you don't feel as attractive. You struggle with things like flying. Were you able to get on an airplane at your maximum weight?
Yes, I could get on airplanes, but that was one of the things that bothered me. But first of all, I'm going to back up 1 second. You made an interesting point. You said you struggled with weight. You know when I began to lose weight, Robin?
When?
When I stopped struggling with it.
Ah, okay. Tell me about that.
It's simple. You don't need to struggle. Just it's real simple. A friend of mine had told me for many years. He said, "Eat less, exercise more." It's that simple.
Okay.
No complicated formulas. Nothing complicated. It's just eat less, exercise more. And I since that time, I'm on a mission to make things simple. People, as an attorney, I've worked with people for many years, and what I like to focus on is taking complicated things and making them simple.
Well, and I agree with that, but sometimes it's easier said than done. And
Sometimes it's easier done than said.
well, and I love that theory, and I'm certainly not arguing the point at all, but for people who gain weight easily, it can be a real struggle. Now, I know I read in your book at one point you were walking, and that you started off by walking in a pool. Did you do that because you had easier movement when you were in the water?
I did it just because I wanted to make sure I didn't hurt myself. I wanted to, because I was so large, it was easier for me in the pool. The water displaces a lot of your weight, and so it doesn't tear your body up.
Yes. Yes, water therapy is good for everybody. It's easy on your joints, and you can move easier because you're not weighted down by gravity so much. So you started off in a pool, you felt better, you started losing weight, and then when did you say, let me take it on the ground outside of the pool?
Probably after 2 months or so, because first of all, I got tired of going to the gym because I started walking an hour a day, 2 hours a day, and sometimes even longer. And one of the interesting things about going to the gym for the pool, most of the people who go in the pool, other than the serious swimmers, they go in the pool to splash around and have fun after they've done their workout. And the pool is where they go to play. And I hate to tell them that that's where I went to do my workout. And it was like me, when they were on the treadmill or they were on the exercise bike, I didn't go over there to play. So it was annoying sometimes. And I did a lot of things where I would go to the gym at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, just to go there when it wasn't busy and that kind of thing. But I got to the point where I started feeling better, and by my house there's all these walking trails. And I said it's kind of silly for me to not be taking advantage of this. So I just got out and I started walking in my neighborhood and, walking all around and discovering the trails and trying to walk a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more.
And you say that you find your path in life by walking your path.
That's what has worked for me in my life. I have found that the best times in my life are when I don't try as hard.
Okay.
That we can push and push and push. Push for success, push for happiness, push to try to find a job, push to try to find a mate, push for everything. And sometimes
Okay.
where you go out and you start walking and you see what comes your way, and you discover what is supposed to come your way, and you take what the universe sends you. You take what God sends you. You take what nature sends you, whatever you want to call it. But you go out there and you see what comes your way, and the things that you want and the things that you need will happen.
Okay. All right. And I know too. I've done a lot of walking, and I used to run, but I do think that your mind can figure out more things when you're walking rather than running. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Personally, well, first of all, some people running works fine. I've got nothing against people who run. I've got nothing against people who ride bikes. Nothing against people who hike or anything. I believe that everybody needs to do what works for them. But like Nyla just said, I noticed she said her knees won't let her run.
I see that.
Well, I agree with you. I think walking is the best because walking is the easiest. You need very little equipment. All you need is a pair of shoes, the right clothing, and a place to walk. And I like to have time to be by myself, to be able to think, to get inside of my mind.
Yes.
But everybody is different. It's funny. I could be on a trail walking with my wife, and there's nobody around, and I'm loving it because there's nobody around, and my wife hates it because she likes to be around people. She would rather be out on a trail where there's 50 other people walking. So it's kind of like everybody has to do what works for them. But what I like more than anything about walking is it has given me the time to open myself up and allow things to come to me, to allow ideas to come to me.
Yes. Yes. And I noticed one thing that was interesting, and I've had this conversation with people as well. You would talk to people about health or wealth and which one is the most important. And I think that you're right. If most people are healthy, they think wealth is important. If you have wealth and you don't have health, you think that health is most important. And at the end of the day, if you're going to have a great life, it seems like we should think about both of them.
Life is all about balance.
Yes.
And do you know what balance is?
What?
Balance is increasing what's deficient in your life and decreasing what's excessive.
Okay.
I was eating too much food. I needed to eat less. I wasn't exercising enough. I needed to exercise more.
Yes.
Certain people in your life irritate you, and you need to hang around them less. Some people in your life, you love them, you need to hang around them more.
Yeah.
It's
Real
really simple. Life is simple. We as people make it complicated.
And why do we do that, Stanley?
It's fun. We like, first of all, we love to complain. We love, but as much as we hate being miserable, we love to be miserable.
Yes.
It makes us feel like we're alive. And when we sit back and relax, that's when some people no longer feel alive. They need the stress. They need the attention. They need to have everything going on in their life. And my suggestion is that is okay sometimes. But other times, we need to sit back and relax and realize that there are other ways.
Yes. Yes. But what do you say to people who can't get outside? Maybe they have issues with the sun, direct sunlight, or maybe they've got foot problems. What do you say to those people who have difficulty walking?
First of all, I run into that issue all the time.
Okay.
A lot of people say they work. They can't walk several several hours a day like I do. I understand that. First of all, I'm only suggesting that people need to exercise 30 minutes a day or an hour a day. It doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours. I just do that because it is what has really worked for me. There are, if you can't get outside, put a treadmill in your house. Put an exercise bike in your house. If you have foot problems where you can't use your feet, get yourself a rowing machine.
Okay.
Do some type of exercise, or start going in the pool. If you have foot problems, the pool is an excellent place to go.
Okay.
The bottom line is we have to stop making excuses. It's okay to acknowledge that we have a problem. It's okay to acknowledge that we need to figure out a solution to that problem, but we should not use the problem as an excuse to not exercise.
Okay, and I think really you just hit the nail on the head that walking is excellent. If you can't walk, you can do something. I'm laughing because Shannon in the chat room says, run around your kitchen island chasing kids. That works for her exercise plan. And then, of course, other people have issues. Ellen said she had skin cancer, so she doesn't dare go out in the sun. But I think it's a matter of figuring out what works for you, to go out early before the sun or to go in the evening as the sun is going down, or like Stanley said, to get a rower, to get some sort of equipment, get a treadmill, something that you can do. But the bottom line is we have to move in order to take care of our bodies. And when we do it because of our bodies, it helps us with our brain. I think that's so beautiful. I love that.
Can I tell you something, Robin? We absolutely have to move. One of the things that I do a lot, especially when it's hot here in Arizona, sometimes in the summer, I do a lot of walking in the mall. And I people watch when I'm in the mall. And it just absolutely blows me away to see how many people are overweight, how many people are in terrible shape, and those are the very ones who go into the food court and eat the heaviest foods, all the ones that I love and used to eat all the time.
Yes.
And it's just making the problem worse. The biggest thing that we have to do is that we have to become consciously aware. Like one of the things I was thinking this weekend, all the football games I was watching, I think this was the big Susan Komen weekend. And I was thinking about all the breast cancer awareness and how important the breast cancer awareness is. What do we have to do to get people aware about the obesity problem?
Yes, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but the American diet is just not conducive to losing weight. And everybody's in a hurry. There's so much prepackaged foods, and it's just loaded with stuff that is detrimental to the body. So it's kind of a twofold problem. We're too busy. We're looking for a quick fix. We grab stuff. We go through the fast food restaurants because we're starving to death, and all of a sudden your blood sugar drops and you've got to have food. What do you say to people who are busy and all the busy moms and people who are working 2 jobs? How can they figure out?
I say that just because some marketing person puts all this garbage food in front of you doesn't mean you have an obligation to eat it. And until we Americans and we the people stand up, become consciously aware, and make a statement to all these marketing people that we are not going to eat this garbage.
Yes.
And that they better stop serving it to us, or they're going to go out of business.
Is that
as long as we keep eating it, and they're going to keep serving it to us, and it's a vicious cycle. The food companies serve us all this garbage because the fatter we get, the more we want to eat, so the more food they sell us.
Yes.
The more food they sell us, and the fatter we get, the more unhealthy we are, so the more we have to go to the doctor, and instead of going going to the doctor and getting a glowing report. The doctor tells us that we need all these medicines and all these pills, and we need all these tests, and we need all these procedures. Which, by the way, guess what? The doctor makes more money by selling us all those things.
Yes.
And the hospitals make more money when we get sick and go into the hospital.
God.
And it's a vicious circle. America is a sick country. But this is still America. And America has proven time and time again that when it makes up its mind that it wants to do something, and when the American people make up their mind that they want to do something, maybe there's no limit to what they can do.
I know it. You know, it makes, when we talk about food manufacturers, it makes me think about how they used to preach eating fat-free stuff. And this is when my husband was still around, and we were eating fat-free, and he kept saying, buy more fat-free. And what we didn't realize, I've learned so much since that time, but what we didn't realize is they took the fat out, but they put the sugar in. So you're eating a ton of sugar. Who cares if there's no fat? We were eating a ton of sugar, and we didn't get it. And that's what's so frustrating to me. I mean, it made sense to think, don't eat fat, won't be fat. And then in the end, the sugar, it just all turned to fat anyhow. And we were getting bigger in our efforts to lose weight. It's so frustrating when that happens. But here's the good thing. You have figured out walking. I love the idea of walking in the mall, because you've got a controlled temperature, you're not dealing with the sun, you know what hours are there, you can pace yourself well. That's really excellent. I love that
Don't
idea.
spend a lot of money while you're in there.
And that's the key right there. If you can walk past the stores, then that's great. As long as you don't walk inside them, then you've got something going. If you've just tuned in, you're watching Robin Craig Live, and I'm talking with Stanley Bronstein, who has lost a ton of weight. How many pounds have you lost now, Stanley?
127 since July, since February of 2009.
That is so great. And I'm going to be giving away his book, The Path of the Warrior Walker. Here's a copy of it, and you can see Stanley over here, the little guy in the green shirt. He's lost.
Actually, I'm pretty big in that picture. I've gotten much smaller since then.
Well, maybe it's because you're farther away. You still look small, but I know that you're smaller now. And also, Stanley walked for 5 hours a day in all 50 states, and then he wrote this great book, 50 Key Questions Only We the People Can Answer. So tonight, I'm going to give away the Warrior Walker book, but we are also making these two books available to you if you go to my website, robincraigdirect.com. Then you can download these two books at no charge. If you would like to win the hard copy of The Warrior Walker, go to my website. Let me put it up on the screen here for you real quick. It's just robincraigdirect.com. And you can download his books, which they're both great. They're easy reading. They make an awful lot of sense. And he just brings up a lot of good points. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the 50 key questions only we the people can answer. But before that, Stanley, let's talk a little bit about our retreat at Miraval. We're doing this retreat Sunday through Thursday, November the 13th through the 17th at Miraval Resort and Spa in fabulous Tucson, Arizona. And you know the weather in Arizona is great. As a matter of fact, Stanley is out in Scottsdale. What's your weather like right now, Stanley?
Actually, it's raining.
Is it raining? Wow.
It's like fell down and back to God. Arizona is flooding. In Phoenix, South Carolina, when it rains, then it's the whole night, and then 20 minutes of the next time will be, it's raining.
That's so funny. Well, see if you can send it to Texas, because we're still dry as a bone over here. That's so funny, though. But I love what you're doing, Stanley, and I love a lot of the things that you talk about. And you talked about how when you were at your heaviest weight, that you lost down, and then you gained some back, and then you lost, and you wound up losing 45 to 50 pounds that seemed to stay off. But the other weight just yo-yoed. What do you attribute that to?
Well, let me explain it. 20 years ago, when I was like 31, 32, I was up to 367. I did Weight Watchers, which, by the way, if you're going, I don't work for them, but if you are going to any weight loss program, they're the only one that I believe in that I think halfway works. But in any event, um, I lost like 100, 110 pounds on Weight Watchers. And
Wow.
that was mainly by stopping eating in the middle of the night. I
Okay.
used to eat round the clock.
Okay.
And I got to the point where I no longer ate between midnight and 5 a.m.
Yes. Excellent.
And what
Excellent.
happened was I put a bunch of that weight back on that I lost, but I did not go back to eating in the middle of the night. So by doing that, I essentially that kept 40 or 50 of it off completely. So I never got back up to 367. I only got up to like around 320.
Okay.
But honestly, one of the things I believe in more than anything is something my grandfather used to tell me and my father all the time. My father was always grossly overweight. He told us, don't eat late at night. He said, why are you eating late at night? He said, all you're doing is you're taking that food with you to bed. Do you know what time on a typical day, do you know what time I eat my last meal, Robin?
When?
1 or 2 in the afternoon.
That's your last food of the day?
That's my last food of the day on a typical day. You know, I might eat something small afterwards, but I typically end it. I get up 4 o'clock, 4:30 most mornings and get an early start, but I quit eating early.
Wow.
And some of the things I've learned is that by doing that, I don't take my food with me. I eat larger meals in the morning. I mean, that's the way, if you think about it, farmers and all that used to do it. You know who else does that? I was reading a book the other day. Buddhist monks do that. They usually eat their last meal around noon. They do all their eating in the morning. And they spend the rest of the day in contemplation. It sounds kind of hard, and people don't like it, and when you tell them that, they say they could never do that. What I usually recommend is to people, if you would just stop eating 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed.
Yes, I agree with that.
Don't eat, if you go to bed at 11, don't eat past 6 or 7.
Yes. And I remember Oprah and I think it was Marie Osmond, who have both lost weight time and time again, had said not to eat past 7 or 7:30 in the evening. So whichever time you pick, I think it's certainly no secret any longer that eating late at night is really detrimental to the body. We just lay there and the food's just there. We're not burning it.
Can I share something else with you?
Please.
You know what I've discovered? You know what happens? People ask me, how can I go to bed hungry? You know what happens? You know what it means when you go to bed hungry?
What?
It means you're losing weight.
I love that because you're right. And I know that feeling. And sometimes I have to talk to myself and go, I'm kind of hungry, but yeah, it is that feeling of losing weight. And you know, sometimes you can just drink water and it will.
You know what I tell myself, Robin?
What's that?
I sit there, if there's some food that I want to eat, I will look at it, and then I tell myself, that food will be there tomorrow for me to eat.
Ah.
I do not have to eat it today.
That's good.
See, one of the problems I run into is when I started limiting how much I ate, sometimes I would have a dilemma. There would be 2 things I wanted to eat, but that would be too much food. So it's like, which one do I want to eat? This one or this one? And I couldn't make up my mind. So I sat there and I told myself, I can eat the other one tomorrow.
That's so great. And you know what I did? I did something similar like that too, where I said, you know, I live in America. Every kind of food in the world is just outside my door. I can have anything I want on any given day. And because sometimes it seems like a lot of us were raised where they said there are starving kids in other countries. I think China was the country back then, and that you needed to clean your plate. But that's not the right way to think. We need to listen to our body and know when it's not hungry anymore and stop.
Exactly. And it doesn't just, you and I have been talking a lot about food right now and exercise, but it doesn't just apply to food and exercise. It applies to every aspect of life.
Yes.
You know, it applies to our relationships. It
Yes.
applies to our attitude.
Yes.
It applies to whether or not, we have anger issues. Whatever. It can be applied to anything.
Yes.
And the attitude that I like to take, we were talking earlier about how life is simple, people make it complicated.
Yes.
Here is why I think we do that. I was thinking about what you were asking. I think it is because we have a tendency to live in the past. And I realize that I'm talking to a widow support group here. And I realize that me, having never been widowed and having never gone through that, it's easy for me to sit here and talk about not living in the past. But my philosophy is that the past is always with us. The past should always be remembered. But the past is what we learn from. It is not where we live. We live in the present.
That's
we can
great.
look at our past.
That's great.
You know, Robin?
Yes, that's great. You're right. Can you hear me?
We can remember all the good times that you had with your spouse. Remember all the good things that you learned. But take those things and incorporate them in the life that you live now.
Yes.
Never forget where you came from.
Yes. Yes. And because we are a combination of our experiences up to this point. And I think everybody wants to live the very best life they can. Everybody wants to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, but sometimes, as I said, people do struggle with it, and I think you're right, Stanley, that it's not that difficult of a formula, but sometimes we fight it and we make it difficult. But here's the thing. I want to invite everybody once again to check out my website, robincraigdirect.com. Stanley and I will be doing a retreat, a 5-day, 4-night retreat at Miraval Resort and Spa, and it's Oprah's favorite. Need I say more? And we're going to be walking in the mornings, and I'd like to remind everybody that if you go, you're not obligated to walk in the morning, and you're not obligated to come to any of our sessions. We'll be doing morning and afternoon sessions, and we'll be doing a lot of one-on work with everybody. But if you wanted to stay in your room and hibernate, or you want to have massages or get your nails done or whatever, they offer so many services at Miraval. And
you didn't get the updated memo. I was going to beat everybody who didn't walk in the morning.
Oh, no. Okay, well, nip that. If you go and don't walk, Stanley will beat you. So you're right. I didn't get the memo.
You will want to walk.
You will want to walk, and that's the key right there, because it's motivating when you can do things in a group. It's sometimes a little tougher to be self-motivated, but when you've got a group and everybody's like, come on, we're doing it, it's going to be great. And don't they have a lot of cool walking paths outside through the desert?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not just that. The food there is fantastic. It's all healthy stuff, although they have some, nasty goodies also. You can be as good as you want to be there or as bad as you want to be there. But basically, everything that you and I are talking about right now, we're going to go through it in much more detail. And we're going to spend hours and hours and hours. Everyone will have the opportunity to talk with us personally and in a group. And it's basically a chance to step off the face of the earth, quite literally, and just totally clear your head. Get away, be around supportive people, and it's the week before Thanksgiving. put in front of us doesn't mean we have to consume it.
Yes.
And also, Robin, if the people in the chat room have any questions, feel free to write us, and if we see your questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Absolutely. And you can contact me on robincraigdirect.com. Robin with an I, Craig like a boy's first name, direct.com. I've got it up on your monitor right now. And you can click on the banner at the top of my website. That will take you over to Stanley's website, where there's a complete breakdown of everything that is included. When you think gourmet meals, daily snacks, nightly hors d'oeuvres, all of the non-alcoholic beverages you can drink, including juices, and just a nice mind, body, and spirit retreat. That's basically what it is, because you're right, Stanley. My dad used to say that sometimes you get so bogged down in life and there's so much to think about and there's so many pressures and your brain gets cluttered that you literally need to go and get away from it, clear your head, and then you come back with a renewed zest or vigor, and you can start over and you're more productive. And I know that's what's going to happen to everybody that comes to see us at Miraval. It's going to be so fun.
Well, couple of things. One, first of all, if you click on that link to my website, you can download for free electronic copies of my last two books. So that Path of the Warrior Walker and the 50 Key Questions, the ones that Robin held up, you can download those for free.
Yes.
So you might as well do that. You can take it. It answers a lot of your questions.
Yes.
And the 50 Key Questions book especially gives you a lot to think about. One of the questions that Shannon asked was, do I recommend a specific type of shoe?
That's a great question. What did you say?
The answer is, first of all, I recommend whatever shoe works best for you. And that's the first thing.
Okay.
But I personally have found, for somebody like me, I'm a special case. Because I walk so many miles, a pair of shoes only lasts me 3 or 4 weeks.
Really?
Can you believe that?
3 or 4 weeks?
3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I chew through the shoes really fast. So what I have liked is, I found it works for me, my favorites have been Reeboks. Reebok has these air cushion shoes, and I get them at the outlet mall. And I walk in there and I go, how many pairs do you have? And 9.5 wide. And they go, oh, we've got 10 of them in stock. And I go, I'll take all 10.
Wow.
And they look at me like I'm nuts, but I get them at a discount and I put them in the garage. And it works great. Like I just keep an eye on my shoes every 3 or 4 weeks when I need to, I replace them. But with all that said and done, I've had good luck with Nikes.
Okay.
I've had good luck with New Balance. Avias are good shoes. Sauconys are good shoes. I'm not necessarily attached to any one shoe. The one thing I will tell you is that, how everybody talks about those shape up and those toner
Yes.
shoes and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Those shoes, they're different. They're not for everybody, and when you first start wearing them, they are going to work your foot muscles and your leg muscles and your back muscles in a different manner, and I almost recommend easing yourself into those shoes, because if you wear them all at once, you're going to get sore.
Okay.
And that's been one of my times.
Okay, now I'm also seeing too, I'm cracking up. Julia wants to know about Benitos, and Julia, I'm going to be giving away some more of those. Shannon got an entire case of them, and she said that she and the kids love them. So I'm going to be giving away some more Benitos. If you got the munchies and you really need to nibble on something, it's the best chip that you can get because they're made out of beans rather than corn or potatoes, and they've got a lot of healthful stuff like proteins and omega-3s in there. So I will be giving away some more of those. And
Don't munch on them late at night.
Okay, absolutely. Just don't eat them after 2 o'clock, Stanley says. Now, also, Stanley, do you recommend multivitamins? I see the chat room, they're asking about that as well.
Yeah, yes, I recommend the multivitamin absolutely. There's nothing wrong with taking supplements. I've had times where I took every supplement on the face of the earth, and then other times where all I did was take a vitamin. And honestly, I felt the same both ways. I think to some extent we can overdo it with all those things. I don't think it's necessary to have a medicine cabinet that's got 50 different things in it. But there's nothing wrong with that type of stuff. And there's certainly nothing wrong with a multivitamin, especially if you're a weird eater like I am, and you didn't always have as balanced of a diet as you needed to have.
Yeah, I'm very much pro vitamins because even when we eat the right things, we oftentimes cook them too long and we cook all the good stuff out of them. And I don't think no matter how hard we try, we really get everything we need. And I was actually talking to I think it was holistic nutrition specialist today, and we were talking about vitamins. And then I read something online, and I hate to say it, but they talked about some of the basic vitamins like Centrum not really being everything it's cracked up to be. So I think we have a responsibility to, and I'm going to bring on some guests to talk more in depth about those things, but I think we do have a responsibility to check it out and to do everything we can to ensure that our bodies are getting the right stuff because life is brutal. There's so much that happens to us every day. Stress is really difficult on the body, and most of the people watching this show tonight definitely are dealing with stress. So we just have to do the best we can. But I do believe that Stanley is right about finding your path when you're walking your path and allowing your head to just be free and just think. You can solve a lot of issues. Things look a lot differently. Stanley, I want to mention about your walk that you did 5 hours a day in all 50 states. What would you say is the greatest lesson that you learned from doing that?
Okay, the greatest lesson, the greatest lesson I learned, let me start at the beginning. When I was walking, when you walk 4 or 5 hours a day, you do a lot of thinking and ideas come to you. One of the ideas I had is that I wanted to try to draw attention to my car. So I said, I'm going to go tour the United States. I'm going to get in my car, or in the case of Alaska and Hawaii, an airplane, and I'm going to go to all 50 states, and I'm going to walk 5 hours a day in each of the 50 states. And I didn't necessarily have anything planned along the way. I tried to figure out where I was going to walk. I walked a lot of college campuses, a lot of malls, a lot of downtown areas, a lot of various places, and I just met people. And some of the things I learned out of the trip, first of all, when I told some of my friends that I was going to cover all 50 states over a 69-day period, and then I was going to drive between the states and walk 5 hours a day, and find time to blog about it, and find time to sleep, along the way, they told me I was nuts and that I was going to kill myself.
And here you are. Here you are. You did it. I mean, that's like a major accomplishment. I'm cracking up because Shannon lives in Indiana and she wants to know if you walked in Indiana. He walked.
No, I walked on the campus of Notre Dame, and I've got a cute little video of the squirrel. If you go to my YouTube page, I call it the Notre Dame squirrel. This cute little squirrel walking around the ground. It was, I think in September, and they were all burying their nuts around that time.
That is so funny. Okay, Shannon, there's your answer. I mean, he walked everywhere, all 50 states. That's amazing. I mean, I've never heard of anybody buying 10 pair of athletic shoes for themselves at once. So to me, that kind of says everything. But Stanley, you're loaded with a lot of information. I mean, we're just touching on all of this stuff. You know, you talked, and I know we're going to run out of time, so we don't have time to cover everything, but you talked about that you had lost weight in the past, but you didn't have a psychological component to deal with it. And when you would lose down and you would start to feel success, you were just tired of trying so hard.
Yeah. I, I thought I didn't, it's almost like I was afraid of being successful. I was afraid of getting everything I wanted. And it's just, honestly, we have to let go. We just have to let go of our past, and we have to decide who we are, what do we want to be, where are we going, is what we're doing right now going to get us where we want to be, or do we have to make changes? And then we have to make those changes. It is no longer an option for me to fail.
Yes.
Like when I get up in the morning, it is not an option for me to go walking.
Yes.
I'm going to do it. Period.
Yes. Yes.
When I see a family event and there's a bunch of food that gets put out, and it gets put out at nighttime, even though I want to eat it, I tell myself I'm not going to eat it. It used to drive my wife and our mother nuts. The family comes into town and we all go out to dinner, and I sit there at the restaurant and I watch everybody eat.
Wow. Wow.
And now they all know that I'm a little nuts in the head, and they've accepted it, and they tell me I look good, and they just realize that that's who I am.
Well, and they have to be so proud of you because you look great now and you feel great and you got your blood sugar lowered. I mean, there's so much to talk about. And I see that our clock, we have a couple more minutes, but what was your highest blood pressure and what is it now?
I would say my highest blood pressure probably was in the 180s. I never took blood pressure medication.
Wow.
I was probably 175, 180 over 110 or something. And my blood pressure now, it's almost non-existent. It's like 95 over 55
That's so
or
great.
something like that. It's like I almost can't believe it, and I almost sometimes think it's too low. But it just, and I don't take any medication. It's just I've made changes in my body, and see, and one of the things I do when I walk, everybody always says, "Why do you walk for 5 hours? If you walk faster, you can get it done in 2 hours." And I don't want to get it done in 2 hours. I walk. You know, they always say exercise at 60% to 80% of your maximum heart rate.
Yes.
When I walk, I'm probably at 55.
Wow.
Maybe even 50. And it's because as I've done more walking, my heart rate has dropped. And it's harder for me to keep it up. But the limiting factor on me is not whether my heart can take walking faster. It's whether or not my legs are up to the task.
Yes.
And while I have taken so much weight off my body, I still, I walk 12, 13, 14 miles a day, and that puts abuse on your body. And sometimes I have to go easy on it, sometimes I have to rest it, and just, but the important thing is that I get out there and do it. And I'm very fortunate in that I've been able to create a lifestyle where I can still get my work done. I mean, I've got my Android phone with me, and in the old days it was my BlackBerry. And I can get my emails, I can text everybody, I can make my phone calls. I listen to audiobooks. I mean, on all kinds of, I go through all these lecture series that I listen to. I probably, if you believe it or not, I probably read, if you count these lectures as a book, I probably read 150 books a year.
Wow.
is that my example is just that, an example. It is not a template that you absolutely have to follow yourself. It is one example of a person who has figured out what works for him and integrated it into his life to make his life better. Everybody who's listening needs to do the exact same thing for them. They have to analyze who they are, what they are, figure out what works for them, and do it. But the important thing is you do it. And one last thing, Robin, if people will download that 50 Key Questions book. Hold it up, please.
I will. You read my mind.
If people will go to Robin's website at robincraigdirect.com and click on the link that talks about the retreat and also mentions the two books, you can download an e-version, an electronic version of that book. It basically talks about everything that's wrong in America, and it talks about 50 questions that we all need to be asking ourselves, and we as a country need to be asking ourselves. And it doesn't have all the solutions on there, but it has all the questions. And if you will ask yourself the questions, if you will give a copy of the book to other people and get them asking questions, make people aware of the book. Anybody who wants to download it is welcome to download it. It's free. You know, Robin made a comment the other day. She said, "Don't you want to sell your book?" And I said, "Look, Robin, the worst thing that could happen would be if 1,000,000 people downloaded my book for free and read it and actually did something about it."
Yes, and I love that, Stanley, because basically, you're on the same path as me. We both feel compelled to help people have a better life. And I know that I've worked hard to create a good life for myself. I see that you've done the same thing. And you've got to have discipline. You've got to have a plan. And you can't waver because of what we were talking about. Just because food's there, because there's a party, because it's someone's birthday, you have to stand firm and do what you know is right for your body. So, Stanley, I'm going to tell everybody to log on to my website, robincraigdirect.com, and the 20th email that I get is going to receive a hard copy of this book. And it's a really great, fun book. I enjoyed reading it. A lot of good information. The Path of the Warrior Walker. I'm going to give away a hard copy of this tonight to the 20th email that I get. Just go to robincraigdirect.com and email me on my contact page. And then for everybody else, click on the banner at the top. Check us out at Miraval. And if you have any questions, you can contact me or Stanley, either one, because we are just touching the surface of all of the information that we have. So, Stanley, I want to thank you so much for being here. I am so looking forward to Miraval. We're going to have a great time, and I know that everybody's going to be checking us out, and I know they're going to want to come because it's going to be wonderful. Thank you for your time this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Robin, people can also email me through the contact link on my website.
Absolutely. We're both totally available, and we'll be doing a lot of one-on-one stuff with the attendees, and it won't be a big group. We're planning on having a small group, so it'll just be fun, refreshing, invigorating, motivating, and it's before Thanksgiving, so you can start off your holidays feeling refreshed and just having fun. So thank you again, Stanley. I'll talk to you very shortly.
Thank you.
All righty. I tell you, I love Stanley. He's so motivating. He's an attorney, a CPA, and a 7-time author. And anyone that's lost 127 pounds, that's hard to do and to keep it off. But I notice how religious he is with his program, and that's the key. That's why we yo-yo, because we do well, we go down, and then we don't do well, and we go back up. So it's not that difficult to figure out. We just have to really focus on it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. You know how much I appreciate you guys coming on the show. And you know I'm going to stick around for a little bit afterwards just so we can catch up. It's so fun to compare notes with people all around the country who are in the chat room, and then they just stay to hang out. So I hope you'll tell people about the show. It's just always positive stuff. I've got some other great guests coming up for you, and you can contact me anytime for any reason, and join me every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain and 7 p.m. Pacific. And stay tuned because I will be giving away some more Benitos. And of course, I'm always loving giving away these great books. And I like the idea that you guys get the books and then you share them with one another. That's a beautiful thing. We're all just trying to create a wonderful life for ourselves. And we're not letting adversity bring us down. It might bring us down for a minute, but we're not staying there. So, Julia, I'm glad that you joined us. I hope that you're feeling better today, sweetie. I love each and every one of you, and I'm going to look for you every week right here on Robin Craig Live. Love ya. Mwah. And I'm going to stay in the chat room, so don't go away.